Learning about the world was Suzuki Satori's payment for destroying the undead being in the city. That could no longer serve as terms of trade. Also, after traveling for more than a year, he would have picked up enough knowledge. After that, he would have no reason to help Keno anymore, and neither would he benefit from doing so. In other words, Keno had nothing she could offer Suzuki Satori to buy his help. After seeing the huge gem Satori had taken out just now, she realized that mere money would not be enough to entice Suzuki Satori. Even so, I don't want to be alone anymore. Compared to that, I'd rather not say anything at all. This time, it was Suzuki Satori's turn to hold his breath. There were times when he felt that this girl was very similar to him. But after seeing the forlorn expression she had shown just now, he realized that she felt exactly the same way as him. Had he not felt like she had when he entered Yggdrasil by himself, staying in an Azurk without anyone in it? Suzuki Satori got to one knee, so his eyes were even with Keno's. Let's make a promise. Keno-san. I will not abandon you for personal no, for my own reasons. Yes. I wanted someone to say that to me. I wanted someone to stay with me until the very end. He could see the various emotions in Keno's eyes. Can I really believe that? Like I said before, we're traveling companions. So, let's travel. Yes, on a journey to uncover the unknown. We won't need any just a little mores. Let's go find a way to save your parents. Silence fell upon them, and Keno bowed her head deeply. Then, she repeated. Thank you over and over again. Now then, can you raise your head? Suzuki Satori took out a gold coin and showed it to Keno, who had only looked up after her had asked her to do so 3 times. There will be times during our journey when neither of us are willing to give way to the other. And of course, there will be times when we're unable to determine who's right, even after we exchange opinions. At those times, Suzuki Satori flipped up the coin with his finger and let it land on his palm. He was quite impressed with how he could land it so neatly on a skeletal hand. He had to keep the fact that he felt more natural this way a secret. We'll flip a coin. We'll use the results of the coin toss to determine who we go with. What do you think? How could I? If possible. It's fine. We're traveling together, after all. Yes, we're friends. As he said the word friends, the faces of his past guildmates suddenly appeared in front of him. Friends. Keno turned the word over and over in her mouth. How about it? I understand, Satori-sama. Satori will do. In turn, I will call you Keno. But as my senior. Keno began stammering. How old are you, Satori-sama-san? My age, huh? In terms of time spent alive, Keno was undoubtedly his superior. I think I'll just call you Keno-san. She ought to understand with that. The complicated look crossed Keno's face, and she muttered I don't like it before puffing up her cheeks and smacking them. It's Satori and Keno, then. You mean Satori-san's no good? Well, that works too. Still, as friends, we ought to speak more familiarly with each other. Now then, Keno. I'll ask you again. Are you unhappy with my previous proposition? Keno thought about it for a bit, and then nodded. By all the wealth, do you mean all the money in everyone's homes too? That was what I meant, yes. Could you not do that, please? Satori-san. After all, it belongs to everyone. Had she said that because she was considering the possibility that everyone might be restored? Or was she speaking in her capacity as a princess who stood above the common folk? Satori did not know which was which, but truth be told, spending time to collect pocket change was definitely not worth the effort. It would be best to leave this place as soon as possible. Is that so? I see. I'll go with that, then. But how about the money in the castle? Do you think it's alright to take it? I guess. She sounded like she was asking herself the question more than Suzuki Satori. Therefore, Suzuki Satori said nothing, but waited for Keno to reach her own conclusion. And then, a minute later. I think it should be fine, yes. Perhaps her stiff manner of speech just now had been because she could not gauge the distance between them. In truth, Suzuki Satori also found people who immediately closed the distance and acted all chummy with him to be very annoying too. And from Satori's point of view, even if the clients buying his company's products said, "We're friends, right?" it would not particularly endear them to him. Only time could solve that problem. We'll do that, then. Let's take all the money and items in the treasury. Oh yes, what about the furniture? I've shown you a few times, but I can store items into a pocket dimension. Of course, there's a weight limit to that, but I can easily fit cabinets and beds inside it. I don't mind if you want to take them with you. Of course, we won't be able to use them on our journey. He thought about his home base in the past. It was a wonderful base, one which he had built with his friends, and which he had filled with all sorts of items from the stores. He had told Keno that it was fine because he did not want her to feel the same emptiness that he had felt at its loss. No, there's no need for it. It's fine. But I want to take a few small things with me. That should be okay, right? It's fine. Let's go to the treasury, then. After indicating that she understood, Keno led the way to the treasury. As they walked, Suzuki Satoru began to think. In Yggdrasil, gold coins were always in a single stack, and they had no weight. It had been like that since it was a game, but he still enjoyed that benefit now. But would the currency in this world be treated in the same way? Or would the weight of each and every piece be totaled up? That would be troublesome. Well, he could take the gems and trade them for money and items. Things might be different from how they were in the game, and he might need to put effort into negotiations. The vault he was led to was tiny by Yggdrasil standards. The coins were not piled into a big heap like in Nazareth, but separately packed into sacks. There were also paintings whose value eluded Suzuki Satoru, and a great deal of silverware, ornaments, and the like. There were also many weapons which looked like they had been used before. They struck him as belonging to a museum as opposed to an art gallery. The image Suzuki Satoru had conjured up in his head of the treasury from Yggdrasil vanished. Now then, Keno. All these are yours, as a princess. Eh? Don't you need it, Satoru-sama? No, Satoru-san. They're all the treasures of the royal family, so I don't mind offering them, giving them, no. Suzuki Satoru smiled at Keno, who did not seem to know what to say. You don't need to force yourself to be polite, you know. In any case, this is the wealth your family built up over time. Given the circumstances, it should be kept by you, as the only one who retained her senses, don't you think? Put it all in this rucksack. It's a magic item that can ignore up to 500 kilograms of weight. I'll give you one. But isn't this really high-end stuff? I can't take it, Satoru-san. Really? Suzuki Satoru began to think in earnest. It was not a high-priced item in Yggdrasil. Rather, it was commonplace to use several of these rucksacks to organize the contents of one's inventory. Don't worry about it. No, if you're worried about it, then treat it as a loan. If you don't want it anymore, yes. If we have to part, then return it to me. Well, what if we're together forever? Then you can just use it forever, right? Alright, take it. Suzuki Satoru forced Keno to take the rucksack. He should probably have checked to make sure there was nothing inside it before loaning it out. It was fairly common for Yggdrasil players to forget magic items from slain monsters inside them. After seeing her accept it without complaint, Satoru concluded that he ought to assume that the inhabitants of this world did not have inventory spaces. However, she was not surprised by the magical effects of the rucksack, because she had been told about such items in the past. It feels like I could become something like a salesman if I could make good use of my inventory space. However, things could get messy very quickly if he used a power which nobody had for profit. Even someone who knew as little as Suzuki Satoru could understand how to use it with just a little thought. Surely there were people out there who were smarter and who would want it. If he became an information broker, it was very likely that he would expose himself as one of the undead, an enemy to the world. Therefore, he should try his best to avoid using this ability to obtain things. He watched her carefully place various objects into the bag with a gentle look in his eyes. That was because the items inside it would not bump into or damage each other, even if one just chucked them in at random. But surely a child who did not know that would pack them in that way. Well, he wanted to help her, those were her family's treasures. It should not be interfered with by a third party, right? He would help if she asked for help, but that said, Keno was also undead. Her body would not tire, so it was very unlikely that she would seek help. Keno, what will you do with the weapons over there? Suzuki Satoru cast a spell to investigate to see what magic was imbued into them. All of them were mediocre, and would be classified as low-class magic items in Yggdrasil. Well, they were practically worthless. They were magic items from this world, and to Suzuki Satoru, now they were extremely rare. Incidentally, the National Treasure level gauntlet was a middle-class magical item. However, the breadth of the middle class was quite broad, and it was among the topmost examples of that grouping. Can we take them? That will be your decision. But since they possess magical power, they should be magic items. If you don't mind, could you let me appraise them? After receiving Keno's permission, he cast appraisal magic item to perform a more in-depth analysis. As he thought, they were all nothing much. The armor's enchantment boosted defense, the weapons boosted attack power, and so on. They were all boring magic items. Keno, these items seem to contain enchantments that boost their effectiveness as battle gear. As for how much they're worth, I regret to say I'm not sure. Saying so, Suzuki Satoru grabbed his sword and essayed a swing with it. And then the sword fell to the ground. He saw Keno look over in shock as she heard the crashing sound of metal. Well, what? What's the matter, Satoru-sama? Is something wrong with the sword? Had her tone reverted to its previous stiffness because of the sword? It's nothing, I'm sorry. It seems my hand slipped. Ha, my palms must be sweaty. How the hell did bony hand sweat? Suzuki Satoru mocked himself as he casually put the sword back on the table. The sword slipped from my hand before I knew it. Could it be that this body of mine can't equip swords? What's going on? Ah, Keno. Can you equip? No, hold it, no, that's not it. Could you swing this sword? Huh, this sword. Ah, that's right, but it seems a bit too large for you, Keno. Keno picked up the sword instantly. Then, she swung it with a whoosh. The child-sized Keno was swinging a sword that was as long as she was tall, but she did not lose her balance because of it.